Cheers! Welcome to Movie Bitches! Feud, episode 7 and 8. We're just doing them together. We got behind and
we're
like,
behind. We're just gonna... So, episode 7 is the onset of Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte. Well, I said that one pretty good that time.
Yeah, you were like normal.
Got over my list. Okay, good. It's progress. There's a whole scene where she's trying to pick out the perfect false lash. She's trying to pick out the perfect lashes. But the music sounded like Henry Mancini. It was like, picking out the lashes. It's become a caper. You know, it was like, nope. Nope. This one, that one, this one.
It was like
perfect.
Absurd.
Nope.
It's absolutely absurd.
This show is so weird to me still. It like will be so campy, but not when you would expect it or really want it.
This show is bipolar.
Yeah, those scenes of her being like, oh, I'm gonna go complain that they're making so much noise having sex, you know.
They weren't even having sex.
But they weren't. It was
they were
like
just having a party.
Having a party and she was felt left out.
She wasn't invited to. Once again, I was just over the whole victim Joan.
Exactly.
thing. This was my least favorite episode.
Absolutely.
I was vehemently angry at this episode.
Yeah.
I don't understand why this show is determined to paint Bette and Joan purely as sad, pathetic figures.
Seriously, though.
Like, it seemed...
Particularly Joan.
Particularly Joan.
But, like...
They're acting like these women never had a nice day in their lives.
Right?
There was never just, like, a nice day where it was okay.
Yeah.
The whole episode, I was like...
You should feel bad for them. You need to feel bad that they...
You ring that bell.
Shame.
Shame. No, you shame.
No, you.
No, shame.
No, you.
Shame.
No, you.
Yeah, but it was just, like, so absurd. I don't know. It just was so overwrought to the point for me that I was like, fuck you. I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel bad for you. Go fuck yourself. Who are you? I don't know.
Go fuck yourself. Who are you? I loved it. Well, so then there's that whole thing where Joan gets drunk and passes out in her Winnebago.
Yes, and they just leave her there.
And they leave her there, which apparently really happened. But I'm thinking the whole time, you're the one that got so drunk that you passed out in your trailer for so many hours it is now dark. That sucks, but also... It's super your fault, too.
Isn't that, like, kind of a wake-up call?
Where you're like, maybe you need to, like, turn that mirror back on yourself. Have a moment of reflection.
I guess, like...
Well, and Mamacita was, I guess, just asleep with her?
That was weird. Mamacita was just like, oh, I'm gonna pass out now, too. Like, not be like oh, Miss Joan, everyone's leaving.
They're packing up the set for the day.
I mean, she wasn't wasted, so, like, why was she so sound asleep that the... packing up of everyone moving didn't wake her up?
Joan goes back to yell at Bette. Like, they all left me.
Yeah, everyone left me.
And then they have that weird interchange where Betty's like...
How did it feel to be the most beautiful girl in the world?
It was wonderful, and it was never enough.
And then Joan's like, what was it like to be the most...
How did it feel to be the most talented girl in the world?
Great. And it was never enough.
But it wasn't enough.
It was never enough. It was just like, it's so heavy-handed.
It's so heavy-handed. It's like a lead hand, like, strapped on with, like, more lead weights. Like, it's just like, what is happening?
Covered in, like, an endangered species blood or something. It's so much. It's so much. We've seen the first, I don't know, at this point, 20 minutes of the show with all the sort of back and forth. And then we have to rehear all of that in Hedda's article.
Dateline, Hollywood, California. Production on Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte continues despite rumblings that the back of a stand-in is doing the work of a star. One of the picture's stars, Joan Crawford, recovers from what her doctors are calling a mystery ailment. Rumors are that Betty's new role as a producer on the picture have made her even more demanding than ever.
They just rehashed the whole thing, and I was like, we just...
Saw this.
I just watched the first 20 minutes of this show. Thanks for the recap. Well, and then this was the episode where we spent like 15 to 20 minutes on her daughter's wedding, and who cared?
This isn't the story. Like, anything that's like fun and crazy, you like make me want to feel bad about.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, and then Bette came on to set and was like, fuck you, Joan, you're a cunt. And you're like, ha! And you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to feel.
And they're like, no, women are tearing women down. You should feel bad about this.
And it's
Hollywood.
like, I get it, but like, come on. Like,
it's a real buzzkill.
Yeah, it also just doesn't seem like any of them has any agency.
No.
It's like, oh, they're doing this because other people made them like this.
And I'm like, own yourself. Bette Davis was a stone cold bitch, and like rightly, like she was like,
oh,
yes. She's like, and what?
So speaking of like things that they just didn't seem to get when they're talking about the roast.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you saw what they did to her in that roast, and she hated every minute of it, and she was mortified or whatever, right? Meanwhile, someone had literally sent us the roast, and I watched it, and it was great.
Yeah.
And the whole time, Bette Davis is like, just having a blast. Yeah. She's sitting there like, oh, stop it, you. Oh, my God.
Back in the days where queens were still ladies and Joan Crawford was king.
And Joan Crawford was king.
That was really weird.
It was so weird. I was like, you guys have literally seen, we did not see the same footage apparently, because like, what the fuck?
No.
Joan used to borrow Betty's bras to use for shoulder pads. And then in 1963, there was Hush.
Shoulder pads.
Did she tell Joan how bad she felt about the roast?
No. And I think she regretted it.
They were like, she really regretted like saying yes to that and all those things, and I was like, what? That did seem very odd.
Did she say that to people?
I mean, it could be in like a biography or something.
And she's just a great actress, and so she seemed like she was having a great time?
Well, it was just the same note, too. It was like,
right.
We can't just let her appreciate this or be self-aware or not be a victim. We have to make it sad that she's a victim of the Hollywood system.
Yeah, and the men and the sexism, and I'm like, I get all of that.
Totally.
But like, can't she also have fun and laugh at herself?
And like own herself?
Yeah, and then just be like, ah, these fucking bastards think they're calling all the shots when they have a tiny dick and they don't know what they're doing. And you're like, yeah, that's right.
So it's what? I was mad the whole episode. And then 48 minutes in, it was like, oh, the documentary's back.
Right?
It's after Joan Crawford has gone into, she's too ill to continue.
Right.
And then they're like, we want our physician to, like, examine you because we think that you're full of shit. She's faking. She doesn't have at least, a life-threatening illness or whatever. And then it cuts to the documentary and Joan Blondell says, I think it's great what she was doing, She, totally says that, that's a valid thing to do.
I thought it was pretty great. At a certain point, a woman becomes invisible. You get fat or old, people don't even see anymore.
I'm sorry, what? This is what?
It's not professional.
Well, and that's why it seems so weird. The show is trying to have this, overarching feminist message, right? But then all of the sort of outside opinions are coming from women of the 30s and 40s in the 70s talking, using a mouthpiece from 2016, and you're like, I can't. What's happening?
Exactly.
So confused.
So
what's the message here? It's cool. It's cool to feign illness and victimize yourself
because that's you drawing power as a woman.
Men have been in power for so long. I'm glad that she literally was like, it's fine. It's great that she's doing that.
I thought it was pretty great.
The whole time I just kept thinking, I just want Joan to be better at getting what she wants. And I guess the message they're saying is without her body, and her sex appeal, she doesn't know how to do that.
Right.
But it was just really confusing to me that they were literally we're gonna sue you if you do X, Y, and Z. Oh, you did X, Y, and Z.
We're suing you.
We're suing you.
And
then
she's like, ah!
I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, they told you they were gonna sue you though.
Everyone told you. Everyone.
That was madness to me.
Madness.
They asked Olivia de Havilland.
Delivia.
Oh, Delivia. Oh, her real bad twin sister. They reached out to Olivia de Havilland to be what do you think about Feud or whatever? And she was like, I don't watch television, first of all.
Loved it.
And then she was like...
That was 50 years ago. I have no idea.
I have no idea if that's what really happened. And she said something like, I don't think they should be portraying people without...
Yeah, without, like
their permission or whatever it was. And then Ryan Murphy got interviewed saying, like, oh, he didn't want to, like, disturb her, so he didn't reach out to her or something. I was like, she said no.
He has, like, some real, like, dysmorphia of events. That's not the right term, but I don't care.
No,
distortion. Distortion of events.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, everyone keeps saying, Olivia de Havilland, the only living person to be portrayed in the show. And I'm like, guys, Bruce Dern is still alive. He's a living person. He was there on set. And they just keep being like, she's 100 years old, the only woman that's still alive. I mean, she's the only woman that's still alive.
Okay.
But Bruce Dern is still alive, guys.
I'm Bette Davis, okay? And Miss Crawford now is over here. Say to me, why, Livy, what are you doing here?
Livy, what are you doing here?
She's playing your role, cunt.
I have a quick question for you.
Okay.
Where the fuck was Agnes Moorehead?
Yeah, where the fuck was Agnes Moorehead? What the fuck? You know what? I know.
What?
They couldn't get anyone to play her well.
They got that woman to sit at the table and be
yeah, but she didn't have to speak.
I'm just mad that they left her out completely.
I am too, because also that she like won the Oscar, right? She was the only one who won the
Oscar.
Nominated for the Oscar, whatever.
She won a Golden Globe.
Okay.
You know,
so
it's gone. It's too much pressure.
You had it for just a moment.
It's a bummer to me that both made characters, right? Elvira and Agnes Moorehead. Yeah. I mean, Agnes Moorehead's cameo does not count as a part, right? That did not. She was like an extra.
Oh no.
So it's annoying to me that the two lead actresses other than Bette and Joan on both movies were not like that wasn't an interesting story to them.
Right? It was so obsessed with Victor Buono, and sure, I get it.
Love it.
But like,
and then we get Joseph Cotton, who was there.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't add anything.
And we have that whole fucking storyline, an episode about Frank Sinatra. Who cares?
Right?
I want to see these women interacting with another woman. I want
right?
to see another woman and them interacting on set.
This is what I'll say. This show really made it seem like there's this really funny episode of Silicon Valley. Have you watched Silicon Valley? Oh my god, it's great. But anyway, basically, they're all nerdy guys. And these two women have joined their company, and they all sort of have this moment where like, well, you'll be friends now, because you're women. And they're both like, no, that's not really how that works. Just because we're ladies doesn't mean we need to be friends. And it was like a really interesting moment on that show. And that's how I thought about this, where it's like, guys, they can hate each other. Not all women get along, and it doesn't mean that like women tearing women down and all this stuff. Some people don't get along. And that's
particularly who are competing for like
the same things and who are like polar opposites
and constantly compared to each other, even though they're different and whatever, and they have a different personality. Like, clearly, Bette Davis's personality was very different than Joan's.
Right? Oh well, if they're not friends, then they're absolute enemies,
right.
And that's bad because of this, and this, and men did it to them, and then everyone else is like their children or their mate, like their literal mate.
Right.
You know, it's nobody that can like challenge them. Like I feel like Elvira would have been a nice counterpart to that, and Agnes Moorehead would have been a fabulous counterpart to
particularly the Agnes Moorehead thing, because I love the idea that it's like, what was their relationship with Agnes Moorehead, right? And that she then went on to get nominated for this role. Was it competition
with her too?
I don't know.
What was it?
Or was it just that they were perfectly, congenial? And
I don't know. I want to know.
I want to know.
That's what I want to know. So that was a bummer.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a real serious missed opportunity. Well, so Joan is still feigning illness.
Right, she's in the hospital.
And of course, her best gal pal, George Cukor, shows up again. To be like, Joni, you can't do this. Joni, it's not you. It's not you. You shouldn't be doing this. You're above this. And she's like, no, not. Again.
You were always ambitious. But when did you become so vindictive?
She's basically like thinks she can hold the movie hostage to the point where they will give in to her.
Right.
And they're like, nah, we're cool, bye.
Yeah, they're like, we'll find someone else.
They finally get Olivia de Havilland to sign on. Well, at first she says, no, I don't want to do a horror picture. I just did what? And they do that really weird, harsh cut to like Lady in the Cage and her just being like, ah!
Help! Please help! I'm trapped in a small private elevator!
so weird.
It was so awkward, and I was like, okay, oh boy, that was unnecessary. But she then agrees and walks on set just like, yeah, it's like.
And then they take that picture. Oh my god! The end of this episode.
And then Joan finds out in the hospital, throws something at Mamacita's head. She finally is like, fuck you, I'm leaving. And then, hush, hush, sweet Charlotte.
Hush, hush, sweet Charlotte.
She's like losing her mind in the hospital, and I was like, this is just so much.
It was so much. Like, this is when it's so campy, and you're just like, but why?
It's campy, but it's making me feel bad at the same time.
Right. It's not campy, it's just over the top.
It's melodramatic.
It's melodramatic. There is a difference.
Oh yes. The finale starts, and it's Pauline finally coming in to the documentary, which I was excited about because I was like, oh, we've like caught up to it, basically. I thought that's what was happening. Pauline comes in all sort of sass and frass. Yeah. And
she apparently is like a big documentary maker now because she found her way in documentaries. She couldn't do it in films.
I mean, I was like, that's true. Like, I was like, yeah, women have a much easier time getting into documentary filmmaking than in, major motion pictures. And I was like, but they just said it.
There would be so much more opportunity for me in documentary than in Hollywood feature films.
Wouldn't it have been kind of great if we didn't really see the director the whole season and then it turns out Pauline had been directing the documentary? That would have been great.
Yes.
That would have been great.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, and I could have come to that on my own and been like, because she couldn't make it in Hollywood. That's great.
Well, and also, too, because, like, she would have had all of that, like, insight.
Information, yeah, and asked them the right questions and, like, had a, different perspective on it. Because at some point in this episode, the director of the documentary is trying to get Bette Davis to get interviewed, and she's basically like, fuck off.
Or, like, the Oscars or whatever.
And he goes, well,
I guess that's it. We'll never really know what happened between these two women.
Fuck you, TV show. Fuck you.
There was just so many moments in the finale in particular where it was just like I was like expecting Ryan Murphy's head to come out of the characters' mouths and just be like, this is what I was trying to say. Like when Joan's at that book signing and that cute little gay kid is just like.
I love it because Blanche and baby Jane are cast aside, but they never give up hope that they'll rise again. They're survivors.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
It really.
Well, it's just, there's no nuance. Nuance does not exist.
It doesn't exist in this world.
No.
She seemed very much tossed away.
Joan was basically thrown away like a paper towel, and you're just like, you guys, come on, like, they're not like baby deer, like,
right?
They can't do anything.
They're full humans.
They're like adults. Come on. So anyway, this was actually my favorite Joan moment of the entire. I mean, aside from just like, fuck you, you're fired.
I don't see the point in having an agent or a room full of fucking agents. You're all fired.
She's just chilling in her apartment, being rather self-sufficient and just like cooking her own meal,
cleaning
up. And I was like, love this Joan. Like, oh, she finally kind of like got it together. And we're supposed to be feeling sad. And I was
Were we?
Yes, because Pauline's like, she was just thrown away, cast aside, living in her apartment, not talking to anyone.
I mean, I felt sad for her that her frickin' kitchen was so tiny. Although for New York, it's quite large.
It was a very big apartment for New York City.
That is true. She's Joan Crawford.
And she's one person. I don't know. I feel the opposite of everything they want me to feel, apparently, in the show.
Right.
Like, it was supposed to be sad, and I was like, this is the best moment.
She's like a self-sufficient human being.
Like, human being who can, like, live. Joan gets offered Trog.
And what is that?
Your co-star, Trog.
I loved this.
It was silly. I mean,
it wanted me to feel bad about it.
Right.
So it's this silly. It's her last movie. It's this insane movie where she plays like a scientist who's trying to like reach out to this ape. I was having a good time with it. But anyway, she has to go to England.
Well, what's annoying about it was that it was like, oh, look how low she's fallen. Oh, she's sunk so low. Oh, she's like changing in the back of this van. And yet you could tell the same story as like, oh, look, she was so determined to keep working, to keep trying to find roles. She would do it. Did she care that it was in a van? Not enough to stop doing it.
Because she wanted to work, because that was her life.
She loved acting.
Great.
That's a lovely story.
I think that's fabulous.
She was so sad and miserable, and she couldn't, like, it was just, why did you gotta go there?
Andrew, they were literally playing This Is the End by The Doors over the sad montage of her, like, doing this movie. And I was like, what is the Suicide Squad? What's going on?
This is the end.
Are you fucking serious, show right now? I hate this show. So then, they cut back to Pauline, and she's just like...
Can I ask you something? Is your grandmother still alive?
Yes.
Give her a call.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. I was so fucking mad. Like, that's just 2016. Like, call your mom. Right?
I was like, what the fuck is this?
I didn't understand why everyone in this show was an asshole to Bette and Joan regardless. So Betty's at her doctor's office. Her doctor's office, a safe space, should be a safe space. And it was a female doctor.
Right.
So it was really weird when the line...
A lot of women your age turn to alcohol when they have little else to do.
Right.
Came out of her mouth. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Wait. What?
Well, and then also the dentist, too, was like real dicky.
That's right.
She made me promise to ask when you'll re-team with Bette Davis.
It hurts.
So they showed Trog as Joan's last movie.
Yes.
And so I was really excited because I was like, oh, are we going to go all the way to Betty's last movie?
Which is which?
Larry Cohen directed this, who is like a famous B-movie director. He did like The Stuff. He did It's Alive and It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive.
Oh no.
And Cue the Winged Serpent. An awful lot of Michael Moriarty movies, which are some of the best bad movies because he often speaks gibberish.
Oh, good.
Flunk your magic twanger, froggy.
And is nonsensical.
Great.
And is unappealing.
Sounds like a real fun time.
It's so fun.
And the winner is Michael Murray.
If there's a fucking Larry Cohen cameo, I'm gonna lose my mind. Didn't happen.
Nope.
Why
no,
not?
instead we had a flashback,
a very long,
fake dream
very
sequence
long
table party. Also, why was Betty there? Betty wasn't dead.
Neither was Jack Warner.
Oh.
He lived a year past Joan. I looked it up because I was like, wait, I know Hannah died, but like, wait. So it's not ghosts. It's just her imagination.
It's just her imagination. I guess it was like a fantasy / like therapy session where she's like, I'm gonna get this off my chest before I die.
Get what off her chest?
All of the things and the way that they made her
she
feel,
didn't say anything. Like, they all talked around her.
No, because then they were like, Betty was like,
you two should apologize to her. And then they both go, no.
Well, I'll do it if he does.
Wouldn't come out.
Why did that scene happen? It was so just like nostalgic for no reason.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's remember Jack. Why would she want to remember Jack Warner?
I have no idea.
It was purely because Stanley Tucci's fabulous.
Exactly. They're like, oh, well, we need to wrap this. Like, it was just like, oh, how can we wrap up all of the characters that we've incorporated?
Yes.
And I'm like, that's stupid. Fuck
it was
you.
completely unnecessary. Like you were saying, why couldn't the scenes of her and Trog be like, you know, she was...
Look at how determined she was.
Champion her. I didn't understand why they couldn't, at least at some point, portray their relationship instead of this, like, petty, mean, back and forth jealousy thing. Why not focus on how that drove them both to be better and they both accomplished so much more and, like, they really were, like, because of that competition, it only made them stronger. Like, why couldn't, at least at times, that be a focus? It was very just negative.
It was really negative. The whole show was negative.
At some point, I think it's Victor Buono or somebody is like, in the documentary or something, he goes,
She was sure that every job she got would be her last. She snatched up every offer that came her way. She lost that special something that I considered her signature, her high standards.
She was working till her dying day. Fuck you guys.
Also, who are you, Victor Buono? Well, he didn't actually say that.
No, sure, who knows?
Who are you, Ryan Murphy? To judge these fabulous cunts.
So then the documentary guy says, I guess we'll never know what really happened between these two women on that first day of set, remember?
I want to know what happened that first day. When they finally were on a set together after all those years of their feud.
It cuts to them in their director's chair, you know, whatever their equivalent. Like one of them's knitting or something.
Yeah, like kibitzing.
I hope I've made a new friend.
Me too.
They could have been friends the whole time, but the men forced them to rival each other and to lie and to...
And it's like, no, I think they just fundamentally did not get along with each other.
I'm sure there were some misunderstandings and some bullshit here and then. Exactly.
But to give all the credit to the men
is annoying.
It was so annoying. That scene was utterly baffling to me. What does this mean?
I don't know.
Is that the fantasy of what could have been?
That they could have just been friends?
Oh boy.
Well, so we watched it.
We made it through.
Yep.
The last 2 episodes were painful.
They were.
I was mad about it.
So, you know, I don't know how I feel about the show. I don't think I really liked it. There were parts that I liked.
I didn't like the show. Again, there were moments.
Yeah.
If this gets a wider audience interested in old Hollywood and Bette Davis and Joan Crawford.
Sure, great.
I would say take everything this show says with a grain of salt.
A large one.
I did not care for the angle that they chose.
Mm-mm.
So go watch some fucking fabulous Bette Davis, Joan Crawford movies. I'll just put a list here, or maybe some posters.
Ooh, fun.
Fucking fabulous Joan Crawford, Bette Davis movies. There might be more Bette Davis movies.
Ooh, that one.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, she's so pretty in that one. Oh, that one's my favorite.
Oh.
Good.
Okay.
Great.
We're going to continue to do retro reviews.
Yes.
If you haven't watched our Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte review, please go watch it right up there. And we're just ever growing the list of movies to do. So cheers. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so you get all of our other videos. And stay fabulous, cunts.